Take 3, Experiment 9, Titration. For step 1 of this experiment is the setup. Firstly, we must build or have our burette clamp. We set up a burette clamp with this O-ring. We'll put the burette in the O-ring, and we will place an Erlenmeyer flask underneath the burette. This stopcock will allow us to carefully, drop by drop, carefully select how much of the titrant we are putting into the analyte or into the Erlenmeyer flask. First, for the solutions we will be using sodium hydroxide, which is the titrant that will be placed in the burette. For the analyte, we will be using potassium hydrogen phthalate, or KHP, which will be going in the Erlenmeyer flask. Another thing that will be going into the Erlenmeyer flask will be the color indicator. For step 2, we will be adding the solution. We will add the titrant, which is the sodium hydroxide. The sodium hydroxide is at approximately a 0.1 mole solution, and the KHP is 204.23 grams of KHP added to the Erlenmeyer flask, plus the color indicator. For step 2, we will use the stopcock to add each drop into the analyte. Each drop we will slowly turn the stopcock until there is barely a drop forming on the tip of the burette or the stopcock. Once we do that, we shut it off and let the drop slowly drop into the analyte. After that drop, we will swirl around the analyte in a motion sort of like this, until we start to see a reaction happening. This reaction will slowly turn pink, signaling that the equivalence point is being reached, which is just a equal point where the equal amount of acid and base solutions hit an equal amount of moles. Step 3 is the equivalence point. As you can see in this diagram, we can see that the amount of titrant has dripped into the Erlenmeyer flask. The equivalence point is going to turn pink. If the equivalence point looks like it's a magenta color, that means that there has been too much of the titrant added into the Erlenmeyer flask. If there is too much added, you will have to restart the experiment and wash the burette and the Erlenmeyer flask completely. Then we will have to restart and add more titrant to the Erlenmeyer flask, slowly drop by drop, until the color indicator shows a pink. If magenta is reached, again, you will have to restart again. So be very careful whenever you are dropping each drop of titrant into the KHP or the analyte, because it can cause you to restart and cause it to overwhelm the analyte. This pink is phenolphthalein, and that is what this pink aqueous solution is once it is reached.